Getting creative to stop Colorado's wildfires or prevent them before they start. Law enforcement and the state are investigating why the whole metro area got one city's emergency alert. Nature has closed I-70. Now technology is making the problem worse.
In our modern age, we've all become dependent on them, and we are paying the price of it.
Olympians get the go-ahead to use CBD, and Colorado's like, hey, who needs cannabis? And a little visited, beautiful spot in our state. Maybe you think the locals want to keep it quiet. Actually, not at all. So let's go on Next at Night. Firefighters are constantly looking for new ways to combat Colorado's growing fires. So let's try goats and prisoners. For real though, if Coloradans are going to keep packing into areas with greater fire danger and a changing climate is going to fuel even more extreme fires, then we're going to need to look at some new solutions to prevent and fight those fires. Here's Anusha Roy.
Really the most challenging experience I had.
When Dan Gibbs is on the front line,
I also served on the Cameron Peak fire.
His mind is racing.
I think about the wildlife impacts. I think about the health.
He's not only a wildland firefighter, Gibbs is the executive director of the state's Department of Natural Resources.
Trees are stressed. They're not getting the moisture content that they would normally have. The winters are warmer. That really breeds this atmosphere of bark beetles.
With things expected to get more challenging, Gibbs said we are at a critical juncture for forest health and wildfires. And more so than ever, partnerships at all levels are critical. He says part of the solution is behind bars. The state is working on expanding the number of nonviolent corrections crews used for this kind of work.
It's a great way that folks can move from being locked up in a prison to have a full-time job in the conservation world.
They're building forces within youth corps to help and paying close attention to threat analysis with more people living in the wildland-urban interface. And maps like this are constantly changing.
New communities that have filled in Highlands Ranch, that have filled in some of the areas around Castle Pines and Daniels Gate.
South Metro Fire Rescue said not everyone is familiar with their surroundings.
Had moved from other areas of the country that didn't have a wildfire risk. And so everything was new.
Fire mitigation doesn't have to be all serious, though. South Metro has used animals to help thin out vegetation.
The goats come in, they do their thing, they just eat and they leave.
They also offer free risk assessments and work with HOAs to reach as many people as possible.
It's rare for us to have a fire that doesn't come close to some kind of a home, a neighborhood, a business.
For Next at Night, I'm Anusha Roy.
Arapahoe County's emergency managers say that a software issue is the reason why the whole metro area got blasted with a phone alert for E. coli in Inglewood's water yesterday. Obviously, big picture, first responders need emergency alerts to work as intended. So at this point, both Arapahoe County and the state health department are looking into what went wrong yesterday. Meanwhile, Inglewood City employees are flushing the water out of that part of their system, and they're handing out bottled water to people who need it. You can expect a day or two of tests in Inglewood before they give the all clear. The state says that Inglewood first found E. coli in the water in a test on Monday, but they say that the city did follow procedure by doing additional tests before alerting the public, a lot of the public, on Wednesday. Businesses in Glenwood Springs are really hurting with the I-70 shutdown right now, and it does not help that drivers relying on Google Maps are in an absolute load of trouble. Google's trying to send drivers on 2 to 4 hour detours to get from Rifle east to Glenwood Springs. The highway's open there. You can just drive down the highway. Those alternate routes are intended for people who are trying to get further east than Glenwood on I-70. The local traffic can still go back and forth between Rifle and Glenwood. Business owners in Glenwood say the confusion is doing further economic damage.
I had a customer come, soldiered on all the way over Independence Pass, made it all the way to downtown Glenwood Springs, made it there, and then all they had to do was go another 3 miles to get to my business. And when they looked on their messaging app, it told them they had to go back to Carbondale.
We've also seen those same apps taking people over dangerous mountain passes, as in the kind of thing you should only go over if you got four-wheel drive and you know what you're doing. So be careful with the apps. City of Glenwood says it's working with CDOT to try and make it more clear to people who are on the ground that you can travel between Rifle and Glenwood on I-70 right now. So Colorado's tracking breakthrough COVID cases in vaccinated people. We know that those breakthrough cases tend to be mild, but tracking them tells us which vaccines are holding up better than others. If you, like me, got that great value one-shot J&J vaccine, well, the news isn't super. Johnson & Johnson is 6.6% of the total vaccines distributed in Colorado, but people with the J&J shot are 15.5% of the breakthrough cases. That is what they call disproportionately high. Pfizer makes up more than 54% of vaccines in the state and 57% of breakthrough cases, so just about what you would expect. Moderna is really performing well in Colorado, represents 39% of the shots given out in our state, but only 27% of the breakthrough cases. Bear in mind those numbers are preliminary and are likely to change.
Our next question about COVID comes from Stephen. He wants to know, whatever happened to R0? Science speak for how contagious an infection is? We used to talk about R0 a lot at the beginning of the pandemic, not so much anymore. With the Delta variant, Stephen asked if we needed to follow the R0 again.
So what we need to remember about the R0 is that it's a one-time measure of a virus's infectiousness. How many people one infected person is likely to spread it to. Original strain of COVID had an R0 of 2 to 3. Delta variants closer to 5 or 6, so almost double the contagiousness. We asked infectious disease expert Dr. Michelle Barron how much the R0 really matters in our now partially vaccinated population.
I think it's very important because it can impact how we view what's coming next and what we can do to keep it from rising. I think the current projections are that if we don't start getting that R0 down, we're going to see another flood of infections like we did in the fall of last year into the winter.
Dr. Barron said she thinks that we kind of stopped talking about R0 because things were looking so optimistic for a while before we found out that a good number of Americans were not going to get vaccinated and the pandemic's just going to drag on. If you have a question that you think we or some other experts out there can answer, please don't be shy. Chances are somebody else is wondering the same thing. Record a video or audio message of yourself asking that question and email it to next@9news.com. So Colorado made history as one of the first states to legalize recreational marijuana. Now a company here is making new history as the first to partner with Olympic athletes on a byproduct of cannabis that's legal for the Olympians to use. Matt Renew is along now from Pure Spectrum up in Evergreen. Matt, for the first time, World Anti-Doping Agency is allowing Olympic athletes to use CBD.
Yep, they are, Kyle. CBD, a byproduct of cannabis with the THC removed, has now been allowed in and out of competition. Athletes will say it helps them with training, reducing inflammation and soreness. And at Pure Spectrum, they were the first to offer up partnership deals with triathlon and weightlifting. Pretty big deal for all of them. At their headquarters here in Evergreen, Colorado's own Pure Spectrum is the first CBD company to box up their products for use by Olympians. CBD is from cannabis. That THC has been removed, and it was just approved for use by the World Anti-Doping Agency. With Pure Spectrum, the first company to sign partnership deals with USA Triathlon and USA Weightlifting. The FDA has approved the use of a drug with CBD in it to treat seizures with people that have epilepsy, but the FDA has not approved CBD overall yet. Still, there are a growing number of athletes who use the product and say it helps with stress, which there's plenty of that these days, and recovery after training.
If we move the compound that's illegal, the THC compound, and it should provide the other medicinal effects that it's looking for, which go into recovery and helps with inflammation, and it's an anti-inflammatory and also a neuroprotectant. So we worked with the University of Colorado to understand the science, and here we are.
Pure Spectrum had planned for a big presence in Tokyo with their product and with athletes, but of course there's a pandemic. That changed things. Foreign spectators weren't allowed. That changed things. They had to change all of their plans, started focusing more on the digital side of things, and now are reworking a number of their partnerships. So, Kyle, it's one of those times where getting in some relaxation is more important than ever.
I was about to say, and you failed to mention that you also now have a round trip to Tokyo on an airline that you can exchange at some point. So by all means, stock up on whatever relaxation you need after your travel plans change, Matt.
Got it. Working on it, Kyle, and I got a lot of credits on that flight.
He's going to clear the shelves.
Join me.
There he goes. Thanks, Matt.
Police in Colorado are now required to police each other's behavior on the job. If not, it's a crime. So how come we didn't hear about the first time that law was used, or the six-figure settlement paid to a victim? If you make it beautiful, they will come. We head to southern Colorado, where a ski hill of dreams is being cleaned up to attract tourist dollars to one of the state's poorest areas. Next.
Colorado has seen more flash flood warnings this year than in any of the past 24 years. It jumps right out at you on a graph. National Weather Service put this out. 2021's flash flood warnings through early July, far and away more than previous years. Now, you can see the 2013 spike, that's the pink line. You remember the devastating September floods of that year. Burn scars from wildfires obviously increase the risk for flash flooding. Colorado's coming off a record fire season. The 3 largest fires in our state's recorded history all happened last year.
Hot, hazy, and dry today with afternoon temperatures in the lower 90s. We'll see these numbers again tomorrow. The smoke and haze, as indicated by the vivid yellow and orange, really awful today and tonight, but some improvement tomorrow with the arrival of a shortwave that will move across the state from the north. Now, the moisture with this shortwave is very limited, so any afternoon thunderstorms will be few and far between and high base, meaning wind and lightning and not the beneficial rain we need. Fair skies, haze and smoke tonight, low 63. Tomorrow, back in the low to mid 90s, slight chance of a gusty storm, not a lot of rain. Really not a lot of rain in the extended period, with temperatures in the upper 80s and mid 90s through the weekend into early next week. Chance for a few thunderstorms by the time we hit Wednesday afternoon.
Recent change to state law requires that police each other. They're supposed to intervene when they see excessive force being used or report it after it happens. Otherwise, it's a crime. 2 deputies in Adams County were the first to be charged with that crime last year. It took open records requests to force the county to reveal to our Marshal Zellinger what really happened. Along with the 6 figures, the county paid the victim without the public knowing.
Do you need to be arrested right now? No.
This is the start of the violent arrest of 73-year-old Karen Gardner in Loveland. After this video became public, 2 officers were charged with crimes, one of them with the state's new failure to intervene law.
Stop fighting!
In Aurora last month, this use of force also led to 2 officers being charged criminally, one of them for not intervening. But the first time a law enforcement officer in Colorado was charged with this state's new law was this. Wait, I can't show it to you yet. What happened here at the Adams County Jail last month led to 3 deputies being charged with assault, 2 of them for failing to intervene. Jail cameras here recorded what happened. You're just not allowed to see it yet.
I got up and I looked up at the camera and I asked him, I said, does this video work? And he told me yes.
What happened to Michael Cassidy in the Adams County Jail last summer not only resulted in criminal charges against 3 deputies, it also led to a $300,000 settlement.
I was assaulted in jail in handcuffs.
Cassidy was arrested on a series of charges that ultimately got dismissed. And the Adams County Sheriff's Office said nope when we asked for the video of what happened to him. Why? The DA's office charging the deputies doesn't want it out yet. So the only account we have is Cassidy's play-by-play that starts in a jail cell, still handcuffed.
And I slipped him in front of my body. And I was told after that by the jailers to put him back behind my body. And as I was doing that, I got jumped and beat up.
Prosecutors charged Deputy Andrew McCormick with assault. Almost 1 year later, he's still on unpaid leave. Also charged with assault, deputies Chad Krause and Michael Montgomery. And in a first for the state, failure to intervene.
What we did was we created a failure to intervene and report with a mind of changing culture within police departments by saying not only will you not stand for it, you will report it.
Democratic State Representative Leslie Herod sponsored the law. She points out it requires the release of video no later than 45 days after the allegation.
While the video is not public, it was public to me. I saw it. and so did the county.
Cassidy's attorney, John Holland, watched the video. He just didn't get to keep it. Not that he needed a copy to get that six-figure settlement.
How come I don't have the video? I demanded the video, and I was refused the video by the district attorney's office, by the county attorney's office, by the Adams County Sheriff's Department, and I settled the case.
Now about that settlement.
I would request that we go into executive session on 2 different topics today.
At this December meeting, the Adams County Commissioners went into private executive session to authorize County Attorney Heidi Miller to negotiate a settlement with Cassidy. The final dollar amount, however, was never voted on in public.
Is that breaking Colorado law in any way? I believe it is.
Attorney Steve Zansberg goes to court often to get what should be made public, public. And here's why he thinks you should know.
Once the settlement has been negotiated and the claimant accepts it, then it's incumbent upon the county commissioners to have a public meeting and to let the public know how much money and taxpayer funds are being spent and who voted to approve it and who voted against it.
Now put the settlement aside for a moment. Cassidy was in jail, in handcuffs. What's it matter what happens behind the barbed wire fencing?
The jail is still in the United States of America, and the laws do apply to them.
Let's go back to the video that we can't see yet. That Aurora case from last week, that's going to court, and Aurora's police chief released the body camera video. In this case, the district attorney's office provided me a statement saying that the DA's office is committed to transparency, but that legal rules of ethics and conduct are in place for a fair trial, and Kyle, that the release of this video can jeopardize the fair trial.
Not unusual for various municipalities to do some business behind closed doors that eventually then becomes public in some form or fashion.
And Steve Zansberg said going behind closed doors to authorize the attorney to negotiate a settlement, that's fine. But when you come to that final number, you're supposed to just say the number and for what purpose and see who votes in public. This happened in Colorado Springs. The Gazette found out the city council down there was doing this, millions of dollars behind closed doors. That council actually changed policy because of this, and perhaps the policy should have always been changed in the first place. I will be following up with Adams County and some other jurisdictions, and we'll be talking about this again soon.
Taxpayers are paying for the insurance that pays out these settlements, and they deserve to know what law enforcement is doing.
Sure.
Thank you, Marshall.
Never heard of it. Not once. I was actually surprised when I got here.
Even the locals don't always know about this spot. It's not like it's a secret. They hope that more of us will come check it out. So let's go. Next.
There are parts of this state so beautiful, it's hard to imagine that they're not overrun by tourists and visitors. Now, before you say, well, don't tell us about those places, consider the fact that locals in some of those areas where poverty is high would like to see more visitors. That's the case around the Spanish Peaks near Cuchara in southern Colorado. There, a group of teenagers are working daily to try and get people to visit. Our Mark Salinger and photojournalist Ann Herbst take us to Huerfano County, just south of Pueblo, as they wrap up their road trip rediscovering Colorado.
In the shadow of the highest peaks, what's left below can be overlooked.
You know, we have been neglected for a long time, and so there really is a sense of tremendous communal pride that we take care of ourselves.
Pride helps the axe cut a little deeper on a summer day.
I'd rather work out here, get a good sweat in, a little workout, instead of sitting home and doing nothing.
Ricardo Bobian has lived down the road his entire life, yet the recent high school graduate didn't know the Cuchara Mountain Park was just 45 minutes from his home in Walsenburg.
Never heard of it. Not once. I was actually surprised when I got here. I didn't know what to expect.
Ricardo is part of the Huerfano Youth Conservation Corps, a new group put together this summer to give area kids a job and the mountain park some love.
You know, we get this place looking nice and just telling people about it. That a lot more people will start coming here.
The team of a handful of teens are used to seeing each other at school or at family gatherings.
Walsenburg's so small that everybody's related.
Half of them are cousins.
Yeah, we're first cousins.
The others have become friends.
You helping get this park nice and prettied up so we could get it running in the winter so we can get the slopes open.
The ski resort here closed in 2000. And with that about to reopen this winter, every bench, bridge, and trail brings hope that tourists will return.
You know, the more people that comes here, that means the more money that's going to come here, which means the nicer it's going to get.
This part of the state is often known for something that's tough to be proud of.
You know, Huerfano County is consistently the poorest county in Colorado. It's Huerfano County, Orphan County.
Connor Orr knows what people think, so he's leading the fight to change minds as the director of the Youth Corps.
What this community needs is for people to be able to come in and to earn a living wage. You know, if we can do that in ways that also are beautifying our space and helping to get rid of all the negative perceptions that exist around Huerfano County, then that's just gravy. This was my uniform for a while. I really was that guy running around in the trench coat, vest, and top hat.
A decade ago, Connor was their age, falling in love with the mountains too.
Right when I was 15 years old was when I first started working up at the Spanish Peak Scout Ranch. Some of the most impactful moments in my life. You know, I'd love to be able to give something like that to these guys. I don't know.
A leader
it's looking beautiful.
Who gets it.
When people talk about the kinds of opportunities that you can't find in small towns, they're not thinking about the kinds of opportunities you can have.
Opportunities that expand their world.
I just got accepted to go start fire science as my major.
And make Ricardo, a first-generation college student, proud to help his home.
Just got the acceptance email like 2 days ago.
It's the kind of pride not even mountains can overshadow. Now that's worth celebrating.
I think after all this today, we deserve to go get some burgers. Yeah. You guys up for that? When we knock it off here? Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys
Swiss and bacon? Yeah.
I love that Ricardo's bringing us full circle with what we talked about right off the top tonight, the need for new minds and new ideas to fight wildfires and prevent them in our state. The Youth Corps is funded by contributions from people in that area, and they're hoping to expand the program all around Huerfano County to get more teenagers involved. Leaving a bag of excrement outdoors kind of makes you a bit of a bag of excrement yourself, and it's not how you Colorado. Independence Pass has enough problems these days, clogged with traffic while I-70 is closed in Glenwood Canyon. CDOT doesn't want people using it as a detour, and the rest of Colorado doesn't want you doing that. Somebody leaving their dog's business in one of the most beautiful spots in Colorado. I'm happy to tell you the 9 News crew that spotted that drop disposed of it properly. Let us know when you see signs that someone's not doing Colorado correctly. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. We end each episode of Next with your feedback. Ever since the first episode 5 years ago tonight. How about that? Leading a viewer to ask how this garbage is still on television. The answer next. We are getting some feedback from one of our Facebook friends tonight. Ben Thompson asks a very simple question. How and why is this show still on the air? That is a great question to ask on our 5th anniversary, Ben. Short answer, Next is on the air because people watch Next, weeknights at 6 on 9 News. The show was created 5 years ago because there was a shared frustration. Our team and viewers didn't love what we saw on local TV news. So we started something new. If you've liked what you've seen, we're on weeknights at 6. If not, no worries.